Welcome back to Oleh at Large, Aliyah Stories, a podcast about making the journey to becoming an Israeli citizen. Welcome back to the podcast. I got some good feedback from my friend Hosh, who said he didn't understand some of the things that I was talking about. So I am going to make sure that I explain things. So Oleh means immigrant, and Aliyah is the process of going up or immigrating to the land of Israel. And that's what I'm doing. I'm in the process of making my move to Israel and becoming a citizen of the country. This past week was a huge week. Two big things happened. One was Independence Day. That also followed the Remembrance Day, which I previously have talked about. And it also had my final appointment to become a citizen of Israel. Let's talk about the Independence Day activities first. So, what's it like being in Israel for Independence Day? So, Independence Day follows right after Remembrance Day, where we remember all of the fallen soldiers and victims of terror. So we have one holiday falling right after the other. And as you can imagine, this year it was a little subdued. Usually there are uh, lots of barbecues and fireworks, and there are jet planes and Air Force planes that do flyovers. And a lot of it was very subdued this year. They canceled the flyovers, and so I basically just went to a barbecue. It was one of my first real social events as a new citizen with primarily Israelis and also people I didn't really know very well. It was interesting from the perspective of being a non-fluent Hebrew speaker in the midst of a very social event with pretty much all Hebrew speakers. I've had certainly practice over the last number of years being in rooms surrounded by people who are all speaking a different language. So that bit wasn't totally alien. And actually, with this, I could actually understand some words. It was a really nice barbecue. I was let in on a good secret that the pacing of the food at the barbecue generally goes from the least expensive to the most, as opposed to everything going on to huge barbecues like you have in America, everything going on, at once and basically being served at once. The food goes onto the grill in waves, and you have to be smart and hold on, keep your appetite in check, keep your plate in check, and wait towards the end to get to the steaks. So with that little piece of advice, I did manage to eat very well. uh, then went to one of the beaches in Tel Aviv around 2-3 o'clock, and the weather was just magnificent. It was a not very busy beach, which was great, and it was a little bit of a hike, but it was really beautiful and just a very special, if a subdued day. Next day was my appointment for the final interview to get my citizenship papers. The citizenship papers are called, and your identification is called the Tuda Zahut, and or TZ. That's what we'll refer to it as. And every Israeli has a Tuda Zahut or TZ, and you get your number, your identification number, and it's kind of like a social security number, but very more easily used and bandied about. You give it in all sorts of circumstances when you're registering basically for anything. Um, so I had my appointment. well, I had my appointment the day after uh, Independence Day. And I realized in the few days leading up to the appointment that I needed some new documents. I had gotten an email from the Nefesh B'Nefesh team telling me where my appointment was, and also telling me that I had to fill out some new paperwork. One was a new form, which they only had in Hebrew. It was so new, they hadn't translated it yet. And I also needed to get a document which an affidavit which said that I was single and I had never been married. That apparently is a new element that you need to provide. I guess it's so that you don't have deadbeat husbands probably running away from their responsibilities and running away from being able to or having to give their wives a divorce paper. Uh, I had to get this document and I had to get it notarized. Uh, and of course, there was this element of like Jewish guilt that, "Hey, you're not married yet. You don't have kids." But that's not what it is. That's not what it was. I did have to find someone who could notarize it, and I was actually up against the clock when it came to getting this done before the appointment because of the holidays. So here's a fun fact: all notaries here are lawyers. There are no notaries that are just notaries, like you would have, let's say, in America, where you could find notary publics all over the place. Uh, in Israel, you have to be a lawyer in order to be a notary. So I found a local lawyer that speaks English and was able to get an appointment with her the morning of the Day of Remembrance. By the afternoon, everything had been closing down already for the next day, Independence Day. So I was able to get that taken care of. The new form I was able to translate into English using Google Translate. So I was able to fill out the form. And it turned out I filled it out pretty much correctly. And I was all set and ready to head to the appointment to get my to Dazahut to get my final paperwork. And I got up nice and early. And since I had seen the Nefesh B'Nefesh team and actually some of my friends who work for the government, work in Jerusalem, I I looked on the email and I saw that the address said 125 uh, um, Begin Road, Menachem Begin Road, and so I put that into my ways, and it turned out, of course, not surprisingly, there's all sorts of Menachem Begin roads, and I figured, oh, okay, I'll find the one in Jerusalem because that's obviously where the appointment's going to be. The morning of the appointment, I uh, get on a train, get there nice and early. I'm in Jerusalem. I think I get there around like 10 to 9. Oh, I'm going to take a nice leisurely walk through Jerusalem to get to the appointment. And as I make it through the city, I go through Hebrew University. Someone asks me for directions because I got my little backpack on, and I guess I look like a student. At least I like to think so. Not only uh, not only a local, but a local student. Uh, Maybe the weather's agreeing with me or something. Anyway, point being, I'm close. I'm getting close to the location, and I realize I'm in completely the wrong place. The Menachem Begin that I put in is the highway, and I realize I'm not where I'm supposed to be. I look back at the email and I was so focused on the address and putting the address into ways that I neglected to really read the opening sentence, which said the appointment was in Tel Aviv, not Jerusalem. And my appointment is for 9:30. I think this is at about, let's say, 9:10. I reach out to Yoni from Nefesh B'Nefesh and tell him that I'm late. As you may remember, Nefesh B'Nefesh is the name of the group that is helping me make my immigration, and it's a group that helps Americans generally to make immigration. Yoni is my Aliyah advisor from Nefesh B'Nefesh. Can they do something about getting me a later slot? Because I knew there were lots of people who were going. There were families, so I figured someone else could take my early slot. I can get a later slot. He and they and Nefesh B'Nefesh were able to, and remember, so I boogied on down from Jerusalem to Tel Aviv. Turns out you can actually get from Jerusalem to Tel Aviv in about 40 minutes by train. managed to get there by about 10:35. I was definitely a little nervous and schwitzed up by the time I got there, but I had everything I needed. I had my pretty little folder that I got from Catherine Link in Los Angeles when I visited her, and I started putting together all of my documents. This beautiful little folder with some flowers and some butterflies on it. One other thing I had to get again were my passport photos. That was another thing I had to run around getting on the morning of the Remembrance Day, along with the notarized document, because my passport photos disappeared somewhere in the move. So I had all of my photos. I had all of my documents, including the document about being single and making me feel guilty about it, and was ready for my appointment. I get called in, and I'm sitting across from a guy who's got to be, I don't know, maybe 30 or so, young guy, religious guy with a kippah, a yarmulke on, um, modern. So the word is dati, so like modern Orthodox looking guy, and he's quietly just going through my documents, and I filled out the form that was all in Hebrew. I made a little mistake or two. I had to make some changes, and within about 15 minutes, he starts handing me documents and hands me my Teudat Zahut, which is the identification, and it has the number of my identification number, and it's official. I'm officially a citizen of Israel, and all in, it took about 5 months, not even. Really should have been about three, or it could have been 3 or 4. I just didn't. I wasn't able to make the earlier appointments because I was traveling, and so I got my identification card, and apparently I'm going to be getting another identification card, which is a biometric one, and I'm officially now a citizen of Israel. Gotten is, did I have to give up either my US citizenship or my UK citizenship? And the answer is no. So now I am a citizen of 3 countries. When I get my passport, which apparently is going to take a while, I will have 3 passports, and that was it. There were no fireworks or anything. When I did exit, there is a nefesh b'nefesh again person there, a post Aliyah advisor to help you. Uh, they took a few pictures with me in front of a flag and holding a little sign, and then they give you this booklet that basically says what the next 8 steps are to becoming Israel, to 8 steps to take. Now you're officially Israeli. So there's a lot to still do, obviously. Things like getting my health insurance and getting my biometric ID, setting up bank accounts, all these sorts of things. That's going to be a big focus of the next number of podcasts, probably. And the other cool thing that they give you is this document. When they gave it to me, when they handed it to me, I looked at it, and I had just gotten the identification card, so I was a little excited about that. They gave me this other document, and it had all these numbers on it. I couldn't quite understand what the numbers were until they explained it. And what it is a list of all of the times that I have been to Israel as a visitor. I counted them up since 2008. I've been to Israel 63 times. This is my 64th trip, according to this document, which is pretty crazy to think about. And yeah, yeah, pretty crazy to think about. I'm pretty excited at this point. I it was a lot of legwork to get it done, but now it's done, and I am officially a citizen. I can vote in whenever the upcoming election is happening, I have all sorts of benefits, which we'll get into in later podcasts. I get a free uh, Hebrew language course called Olpan. I can get my American driver's license automatically converted to an Israeli one. I get some tax benefits. So we'll get into that. So I'm pretty stoked about all that. It's been a lot of work to get everything done, to get all the paperwork finished, but I'm very glad that that part of it is over. And there's still so much more to do and so much more to explore in the country. So, not to worry, there'll be plenty more to talk about in future podcasts. This is not the end of the story. Today's Israeli word was sent to me by my friends and colleagues, Yoni and Iran, who are here in Israel and Canada, two Israeli friends and colleagues. The word is mabruk, which means congratulations. And it is another of the Israeli words that I've used and shared, which is actually Arabic in origin. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about Israel is how all these different elements of Middle Eastern culture come together, not only just the food, but the language, and become a really vibrant community, and certainly one that is interesting to navigate. That's the episode for today. More to come about how all the next steps about becoming actually becoming a citizen and learning about the country and getting around and doing all the things that you do. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe. Feel free to share. And any questions, shoot me a note. And thank you for joining. Welcome back to Oleh at Large, Aliyah Stories, a podcast about making the journey to becoming an Israeli citizen.